Welcome to the Black and White Show. I apologize that you haven't had a video in a little bit. Just life circumstances have been taking place that have prevented me from being able to do it as quickly as I would have liked. That said, I said the next time that you guys heard from me, I would be discussing my father's project. And I'm excited to announce you have fathers standing up for STL. And I will hopefully have videos going out here towards this in the next couple of weeks. And so the mission statement of this is to bring awareness to the need for active father figures, enhancing their father skills, helping mentor current, new, and soon to be fathers, elevating the next generation by enhancing their quality of life, one dad and child at a time. And so the goals that I have for Father Stand Up for STL are to hold the group discussions where we'll cover a variety of topics such as how to father effectively, issues you had being raised by your father and how that impacts your ability to be a father, to how to work with a teen in the social media age that we're currently in. Other things that we'll do is we'll host events where fathers are able to come together, as well as fathers and the children. And we're able to do a variety of things, whether that's go bowling, top golf, baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever it is that we all decide to do. But it's really just about that bonding and spending time with children, and then allowing the children to see that they have a dad that's amongst other great dads, and so that they can just have a value of what it is. And that's regardless of, the qualifier for this is that you're a dad or you're a stepdad. As long as you're actively in a child's life and you're trying to help them and you're taking on that father role, you're who I'm talking to. And so, we want to make sure that we're, doing community enhancing activities, whether it's cleaning up or painting or helping somebody or joining other various organizations to help make a difference in the city. We really want to establish a support system so that way if a father is going through a rough patch, he has another father that he can kind of lean on and get some wisdom or, have an ear for. So that way, hey, I've been through a situation that you've been in, and here's what I was able to do, and he can take that and guide his family in the direction that is going to best suit them. But most importantly, we want to cast out the beliefs that fathers are not there for their children or that they're too busy to be involved with the everyday aspects of their life. And so I will give you a quick example of this. Start of the school year, I'm dropping off my child at school, who's 5. And we have our early childhood care set up because of our work schedules. And so first day of school, I'm dropping this child off, and it's 7:30 in the morning, and we're walking into the building as this lady is walking towards the building. And she said, "Excuse me, you're not supposed to be here. You can't come in. You need to come back at 8:30. That's her first words to me. And so I looked as holding my son's arm, and I said, I've acquired the early childhood care. And so my understanding is that I have the ability to drop him off as early as 6:30. Well, come into the office. That was my first experience. She was not used to seeing a dad drop their child off. I guarantee you, had that been my wife and my child, it would have been a different conversation. It would have been presented a different way. And that's a problem. I ended up dropping him off a couple days later. I ran into a different teacher. "Good morning, how are you? You must be dropping your child off for the early childhood care. Let me show you the way." Even though I knew the way, totally different experience. And so we want to make sure that we have a universal experience. And that's just something that we should know. The parents should know both parents. They should not just know one. My opinion. And so if you're watching this and you say, "Oh, that's me," or "I know somebody that fits that type of description for a father that has that type of passion and love for them," that's who I want working with me. Because in order for us to make this difference that needs to be made in the city, it's going to take a very big effort, and I'm going to need as many hands that are like-minded in that journey. So please tag them, message me, let me know so that way I can connect with them and I can continue to build on this platform and make it as great as it possibly can be, because I'm on a mission to enhance and uplift and save as many of the lives as I possibly can. And so one of the things that we're going to discuss is currently where we're at as it stands today. And so before you go, I do want to take a moment to say episode 3 garnered over 2,000 viewers. I'm super elated with this. I had over 300 comments on that episode, and so I'm exceptionally grateful for that. I do ask, if I can, just this one little thing, if you could please go onto the Black and White Show and like and follow the page, so that way we can continue to garner a little bit more support, and so that way we can reach a few more individuals, because it's a necessary conversations that I'm having. I'm not no fluff. This is conversations that have to be had. And so, like I said, I will have this fully operational here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And after we come back from this little break, I'm going to get brutally honest.
At the same time today, Congressman Lacy Clay of St. Louis announced a new legislative measure to change the federal standard for the use of force by federal law enforcement officers. He says the Peace Act would change the use of force to be a last resort rather than a first resort, and would require officers to employ de-escalation techniques. PEACE stands for Police Exercising Absolute Care with Everyone. That bill would also require states who wish to get federal funding for law enforcement to enact similar legislation. While Lacy Clay stated law enforcement was behind this bill, not all local police, though, agree.
Would set a new standard, and it makes sense. If the rest of the civilized world can abide by these standards, then it helps us get to a place where we need to be in law enforcement.
There's not a police department in the country that doesn't use deadly force as a last resort. So I don't know what the goal of this legislation is other than making noise.
The bill is endorsed by the ACLU and the NAACP, but there is no date set on if the legislation will make it to the House floor for a vote.
So the topic for today is going to be gun violence, and as you just saw in the clip by Mr. Clay, he introduced a Peace Act, which again described as the police exercising absolute care for everyone. And the fact that this is being brought up means a few things. It means that there's a problem, okay? And it means that there's been several instances which now have been documented where government officials have determined using de-escalation techniques were not used, taught, or implemented, and resulted in an unnecessary fatality. That's what this act means to me. So for the following officer to say that police departments have been doing this and he's just trying to make noise. That's not the case in St. Louis. We've had instances of this taking place. That's not the case in this state. We've had instances of this taking place. That's not the case in this country. We've had instances of this taking place. So I strongly disagree with the sentiment that he's just making noise. Now, that's not to say that all police are bad, because there's not. There's some really great ones, and I have friends of them that are. But I am saying that there is a problem that has yet to be addressed, and that is which the qualifications to become one. And in my opinion, there needs to be a psychological evaluation and additional situational training to see how do they respond to certain situations, so you can determine if you have a guy that is going to shoot first and ask later, or ask and then potentially shoot if necessary. Because make no mistake about it, there has not been a case in quite a few cases in the last few years where The police have used de-escalation techniques because it's been filmed. We've watched several videos, hours upon hours, of situations where this has not been the case. So I strongly disagree and am concerned with his mindset in terms of acknowledging that there's a problem. Now, another way of looking at this is a doctor goes to school for close to 10 years before they're allowed to operate. Additionally, they have to have a minimum of 3 years worth of practice before they're able to do a surgery or a procedure. 3 years minimum. 9 months and you could have graduated the police academy and shot someone. And I'm not simply saying that we need to put a 3-year window on our police force, because that's not the solution. But what I am saying is that we obviously made it a priority to save lives based on the processes, resources that we have put towards making sure we ensure success. Why don't we take the same resources and processes and implement that into the people that we're asking to protect us? And what did you know? We would probably be very successful. It is just a thought. But that is just one part of the problem. The police are not the sole problem with this. If we're going to get down to the root of it, it's guns. And so you're going to see a clip here pull up. And so I have a list of the mass shootings for just 2019, which come to a grand total of 297. And I will tell you that 49 mass shootings took place in just August alone across the United States. If you as a parent ask your child to do something and he doesn't do it, the first time you typically give him a warning, right? You may not even say anything at all. But if he does it a third or fourth time, you definitely bring it to his attention and bring it to his awareness, right? And if it were to happen an eighth or a ninth time, maybe we could switch the scenario and say, hey, take out the trash, and he hasn't done it. Now you're kind of holding him accountable by that ninth or 10th time. Really, for me personally, the third, but the ninth time for certain, dude, I asked you to take out the trash. You have a legitimate problem. You could take away the trash and you could say homework. You have 297 mass shootings in 2019. I don't believe that you would allow your child to repeat the same mistake 297 times. So newsflash, breaking news. We have a problem and it needs to get addressed. Because it is unbelievable that we are continually not addressing or taking active steps to address this situation. And so there's actually, as of right now, today, been another mass shooting, September 3rd, this morning. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. If we look at this other, see here, there was a shooting in Texas that took place last month. And 7 days after, not even days, hours, 7 hours after this shooting took place, Texas loosens their firearm laws. So now, school districts, you can bring your guns with you and leave them in your car. Potentially, in some cases, it's been inferred that you could even take it into your classroom and lock it up. Hopefully you remember to lock it up. And so this is mind-blowing for me, because in a place that currently does not allow guns on its parking lot, in its buildings, and already experiencing mass school shootings, now we're going to equip people who teach, hopefully, but have no situational training in when to use a firearm in most instances. We're going to give them guns. We're going to allow them to have those and hope that children don't go into their belongings or break into their vehicles, because now that they know that they're there, it's a totally different situation. I cannot fathom my child being in a school where the teacher is coming into work with a pistol. Accidental discharge, having a bad day, whatever. There's no place for guns in schools with children. The answer is not to put more guns in more spaces where children are. Let's be clear. That's not how that's supposed to work. And so, you have another example that we could refer back to that took place last year. And that would have been, if I'm not mistaken, in New Zealand. 6 days after they experienced their mass attack at their mosque, there was a ban placed on military-style semi-automatic rifles. They have not had a mass school shooting or mass shooting since. They hadn't had one in years prior to as well. But the fact that they took these type of actions, and we've seen the results now a year later, here we are, 297 to their 1. And that's just in this year. That lets me know that we're not really taking this as serious as we need to, or we're just simply choosing to just not acknowledge that we need to fix this. And that's probably because of the NRA and its ability to have such a stronghold on political officials, because their money is tied up into it heavily. And so, in terms of today, how does this affect us today? Well, that shooting that I had mentioned today was committed by a 14-year-old little boy who shot all 5 of his family members. 14 years old. And that took place in Elkmont, Alabama. We have a problem. Plain and simple. And for those that are like, oh, Zach, that's in Alabama. Okay. Sunday, there were 5 shootings in St. Louis, one of which is now, unfortunately, no longer with us. So it's happening everywhere. The mentality of, you're okay, you're safe in my house, under my care, at my school, that does not apply. It's not a matter of, can you protect your child from getting shot? It's a matter of when, as it currently sits. I do not feel that my children are safe at the school, or I shouldn't say that I don't feel like they're not safe. I don't feel like we've taken all the necessary measures to make them safe as we possibly can, which is our job. That is what the government is supposed to do, is to protect its people, and it has not been doing so, and it does not have a good track record for doing so, especially as of late. It took New Zealand 6 days. We're 60 years and counting. I can't be the only one that sees this for what it is. And then not only are you in Texas, are you allowing them to have guns on schools, but now you can take a firearm into a church. So on Sunday, we're going to be reading out of Genesis 4 and 7 and 1 Peter 3 and 9. And we're going to have a 9mm on our Bible or next to. I mean, think about this. I have to sound crazy saying it out loud, sitting before you. It doesn't make sense. And read those scriptures, by the way, if you're just curious as to where I referenced them. Because it just doesn't make sense. If we're going to stop gun violence, then you have to stop making the guns that create that much violence, at least to minimize and gain a control on the situation. We have to have policies and procedures in place. There has to be background checks that are done, because we don't have the right people with guns, and you got people that shouldn't have guns with them. It's a very complex and I don't even have the words to really convey how confused I am about how we have allowed this to continually happen. Because you can't make sense of it. Or can you? Well, let's talk about it. So you have, what is the game? Because here's another problem. You have, what's the name of that game called? You have video games. I can't think of the one right now that all the kids are playing. Fortnite, that's what it is. Or, you have the Black Ops, Call of Duty. You have it on Power Rangers. You have it on your television shows. You have it in the news. It's on your tablet. It's on your computer. You have it in movies. Name the last time you saw a movie that didn't have a gun in it. We are immersed in violence. It's in every aspect of your life at this point, except for when you go to sleep. And maybe not even then. We have to have conversations about how to change this dynamic, because gun violence it's not even just here, it's encouraged. Because that's what you see on television. That's what you see in movies. That's what you see in TV shows. You don't have an outlet where it's not pushed your way, or that thought does not occur. You have, and I'm guilty of this. Don't think I'm saying that I'm completely innocent of it, because I'm not. You have Nerf guns where you shoot people with objects. And then we are trying to figure out why these children at the ages of 14, they get their hands on a pistol, and then we're surprised that they do such a thing. Why? We've encouraged it the entire way. Maybe it's me, but I don't think it is. And it looks like I just got an alert, which normally I don't take time to read this when things are, but I will make an exception. So Walmart just announced that it will stop selling handgun ammunition and ask the customers to not openly carry firearms in its stores. Well, kudos to Walmart. But again, that's just a start. And instead of asking, it should just be mandatory. You can be arrested if you enter the place without a firearm and you're not an actual police officer. We have to come down and we have to make some serious changes. I mean, what kind of world do we live in where you can't go to Walmart, you can't go to church, you can't take your kid to a school without having to be concerned of getting a phone call saying that your child's no longer with us? Who wants to live in a world like that? I do not. And furthermore, if you're not having the conversation with your children about guns, you are endangering your child's life. Not popular, I know. But if we're shooting and killing people at 14, at what age do you think you should start having the conversation? Because they're seeing it on the news when they come home or when they're eating dinner. They're seeing it at school if it comes over the website. If they're going on class and they go online, it's right there. You have to talk about this with your children. You have to get them prepared. Even at 6 or 7, I believe you should have the conversation. My 5-year-old knows that if he hears a certain sound, which I've played for him so he can hear it, that he needs to go find a closet and get in it to increase the chances that I get my child back. I've had to have that conversation with my child because of today's age and today's policies or lack thereof. I encourage you to have these conversations. Or the next person that I'll be talking about will be you. The only place for me to go from here is the why. Why are we experiencing all these school shootings? But we're going to save that for next time. Thank you for watching.